Hello all. Today we are going to discuss about the unit 1, that is regarding to the first BSc physics chapter, mechanics of particles. Okay. Coming to the introduction, my name is Prakash, working as a lecturer in physics in KBN Degree College. Okay. Now going to the contents. In this session, I am going to cover about the review of Newton's laws of motion, which is our first topic that deals with how Newton's first law is derived, Newton's second law, and thereafter Newton's third law. Okay. Then we are going to see how the motion of variable mass system, equation for the variable mass system, how we can derive it, and then we are going to see about the motion of a rocket, and thereafter we can derive how the equation of a motion of a rocket is derived, and we can discuss about the multi-stage rocket, and thereafter we are going to see about the impact parameter, what is the concept behind the impact parameter, and thereafter scattering cross section. These are the list of contents I am going to cover in this session. Okay. Now let us go into the first topic, review of Newton's laws of motion. Okay. Now everyone knows about the Newton's first law, right? Newton's first law of motion, it says that every body will continues in state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless and until an external force acts on it to change the state. Means if a body is at rest, it will remain at rest, or if a body is in motion, it will remain in motion. Suppose and unless and until an external force acts on it, it doesn't change its state. It will stay in the previous state only. Suppose we can go to an example like, let us see a block is staying here. Means it will be in rest. Unless and until I am not applying any force, it will remain at rest only. Now I am going to apply some force. So it will move in the direction of force that is also in a straight line. Okay. In the previous case, no force is acting, which means the block is at rest itself. In the other case, I am applying force, so the block changes its state. Okay. Now the other example of Newton's first law of motion is a person standing in a bus by holding an handler. If suddenly the bus starts moving, the person feels that he has changed its state. Suppose initially he is at rest. See, in this diagram you can see he changes its state when the bus moving. So this is also an example of Newton's first law of motion. Okay, previously he is at rest and thereafter he is in motion. Now coming to Newton's second law of motion. Okay, this is the most important law as far as the Newton's second law is concerned. It states that the rate of change of momentum, nothing but dp by dt, is equal to the force acting on the particle. Okay, it is given by force F is equal to dp by dt. There we can see the diagram. In the picture you can see F is equal to dp by dt, where P means momentum. We know that the momentum P is given by product of mass and velocity. Now I am going to substitute that P value in the equation F equal to dp by dt. There we can see d into mv by dt. So you know that d by dt of uv formula, u into dv by dt plus v into du by dt. So we know that for a particle or some a body, the mass is constant, right? So the derivative of mass is constant. So derivative of we know that the rate of change of velocity is given by acceleration. So derivative of mass is 0, so v into 0, so the second term in the equation goes to 0, so we left with m dv by dt. M into dv by dt means m into rate of change of velocity, which is nothing but m into acceleration. So the equation is given by F is equal to ma. The product of mass m and the acceleration of the body is equal to F is equal to ma. F is equal to ma. Okay. Now coming to the example of Newton's second law of motion. If a person is moving the swinging wheel very slowly, if he moves it slowly, the acceleration will be less. In order to get more acceleration, you need to apply more force. Okay, higher the force, higher the acceleration. So in this you can see, if you apply less force, the acceleration is also less. Here you see the acceleration is more. Why? Because the force is more. Okay, the force is dependent on both mass and acceleration. Okay, F is directly proportional to acceleration. If the force is more, acceleration is also more. If the force is less, acceleration will also be less. Okay, now coming to the third review of Newton's third law of motion. Okay, this you have known very well. You have seen this in daily life also. Okay, it deals with, to every action there exists an equal and opposite reaction, right? This you can see in real life example also. Suppose if you take an ball, elastic ball, and hits to a wall, the ball comes back. Okay, the direction, but it is in the opposite direction. Okay, if you apply ball in this direction, the ball comes in the opposite direction after hitting the wall. Okay, it is given by the equation F12. F12 refers to the force acting of particle 1, nothing but the body of ball 1, and the particle 2 is wall. The force acting on ball to the wall is equal to negative, means nothing but opposite direction of wall to the ball. Okay, the example of Newton's third law of motion, you can see a gun firing a bullet. Okay, when you fire a bullet, the one who fires the bullet faces or experiences a force in the opposite direction also. Here you can see clearly, whenever the bullet is released, the gun itself goes back. Okay, this is the most important example as far as the Newton's third law is concerned. Okay, these are the three examples and the three Newton's laws of motion. Okay, next topic I am going to discuss about the motion of variable mass system. Okay, variable mass system, which is nothing but, in mechanics, a variable mass system is a collection of matter whose mass is varies with time, which is nothing but the mass will change with respect to time. Suppose at a time t it is having a mass m, but after certain time t plus delta t, nothing but delta t is the change. After a time t plus delta t, there will be a change in mass. Okay, it may be m plus delta m. Delta m is the change in mass. If the mass is gained, you can say m plus delta m. If the mass is reduced, you can say m minus delta m. Why? Because mass is coming out. Okay, so far we have discussed only about the systems whose mass is constant. In the Newton's second law also, we have seen that m is constant, that's why you get that dm by dt is 0. But for certain systems like a rocket where the mass is not constant, right? So we can say that the motion of rocket is an example of a variable mass system. Okay, in the previous cases we have discussed about the isolated systems, which is nothing but the mass is constant. Okay, but coming to these examples like rocket, it comes under the variable mass system, means variable nothing but which is not constant. So the mass is varying with respect to time. Okay, now we are going to see the motion of a rocket. Okay, as I said, motion of rocket is an example of a variable mass system. As I said, motion of rocket is an example of a variable mass system. You can see in this picture. Okay, after starting of the rocket, the mass is ejecting out from the rocket. You can see clearly in this diagram, the mass is ejecting out, which is given by delta m. The ejected mass is given by delta m. Okay, the principle behind the motion of rocket is, in earlier cases there exists a fuel chamber in which a solid fuel is burnt. Okay, a solid fuel is gonna burnt. But in former cases, now in updated versions, we can see that the mass doesn't have two chambers. It consists of only one chamber, where that itself contains the fuel along with an oxidizer. Okay, in previous cases you have two things. Okay, one is the combustion chamber and there exists another chamber connecting to it. The other chamber is regarding the oxidizer. In order to burn fuel, you need an oxidizer like oxygen. Okay, as you have known, oxygen is a good oxidizing agent. Okay, in order to burn the fuel, you need an oxidizer. But in latest versions, you don't need any oxidizing agents. The fuel chamber itself consists of the oxidizing agent. What goes behind this principle is the fuel in the fuel chamber will get burnt by ejecting the fuel out. Okay, by ejecting the fuel out, the fuel in the fuel chamber burns. As the fuel which is burnt coming from the downward direction, nothing but the tail of the rocket moves up. Okay, from the tail of the rocket we can see that the mass which is burnt is coming out, so that the rocket goes up. Okay, the rocket consists of combustion chamber in which a liquid or fuel is burnt. Okay, due to the high pressure in the combustion chamber, the hot gases are expelled out from the tail of the rocket. Okay, now we are going to see how the motion of a rocket is derived from this diagram. See, in the first case, when the fuel is not burnt at a time t, I am saying at a time t, at any instant time t, the mass of the rocket is m. We have seen in figure A, and it is moving with velocity v. Okay. In the second figure, in the figure B, you can see that the mass of the rocket is m minus delta m. Okay, m minus delta m. Why I written m minus delta m means delta m is the mass of the gas which has been ejected out of the rocket from the tail. Okay, delta m is the mass of the rocket which has been ejected out from the tail of the rocket. Okay, so that it gains the velocity, right? If a certain body which loses the mass, it will gains the velocity. Let the change in velocity is given by delta v. So we can see that in earlier case it is having velocity v, in former case we have velocity v plus delta v. Okay, let v naught be the initial velocity of the rocket and u be the let u be the initial velocity and v be the final velocity of the rocket. As the fuel in the rocket is burnt and the exhaust gases is expelled out from the rear of the rocket in the downward direction, the force exerted by the exhaust gas on the rocket is equal to the opposite to the force exerted by the rocket to expel it. Okay, this is nothing but the gas which are ejecting from the tail of the rockets are responsible for the motion of the rocket in the upward direction, nothing but in the thrust direction. Okay, by using these relations and by using the help of the review of Newton's laws of motion, we are going to derive the equation V is equal to V naught plus U log E into m naught by m plus g into t. Okay, where V is the velocity of the rocket and g is the gravitational force that is acting on the rocket, and m naught is the mass of the rocket at initial case, and capital M be the mass of the rocket at any instant time. Okay, this is the equation of motion of a rocket. Now the extended version of the motion of rocket is multi-stage rocket. Okay, I said rocket works on the principle of jet propulsion. Remember, the rocket works on the principle of jet propulsion. Why we use multi-stage rocket means, in order to attain higher velocities, in order to attain higher accelerations, we need a multi-stage rocket. Okay, as I said, the rocket works on the principle of jet propulsion. Okay, the jet propulsion is based on the principle of law of conservation of momentum. Okay, the law of conservation of momentum states that the jet emerging in the backward direction makes the rocket to move in the forward direction. You can see there are three words interlinked. The rocket works on the principle of jet propulsion, and jet propulsion works on the principle of law of conservation of momentum. Okay, The law of conservation of momentum states that the jet emerging in the backward direction, nothing but the gas which are coming from the backward direction of the jet will make the rocket to move in the forward direction. This what the jet propulsion principle is states about. Okay. Now coming about the multi-stage rocket, as the name suggests that the rocket consists of multi-stages. Okay, now I am considering the rocket. Now we are going to see about the multi-stage rocket. Okay, this is a multi-stage rocket. What multi-stage rocket is used? Why? Because it consists of several stages. Okay, as I said, the rocket works on the principle of jet propulsion, and the jet propulsion depends on the principle of law of conservation of momentum. Okay, law of conservation of momentum. The law of conservation of momentum states that the jet which is emerging out in that backward direction will make the rocket to move in the forward direction. Okay, the jet which is emerging in the backward direction will make the rocket to move in the forward direction. Why multi-stage rockets is used means, in order to attain higher velocities we need multi-stage rockets. Okay, as you said, if the mass is reduced the acceleration will be increased. Okay, if the mass is reduced the acceleration will be increased. Okay, in order to attain the escape velocity, nothing but the velocity which is needed for an object or a rocket to enter into the orbit is the escape velocity. So in order to attain the escape velocity we need multi-stage rocket. Okay, for the multi-stage rocket it consists of, let us suppose if I am consuming, it consists of a 3-stage rocket. The rocket consists of 3 stages. Okay, the rocket consists of 3 stages. The mass which is contained in first stage is heavier compared to the mass which is contained by the second stage, and compared to the third stage the mass of the second stage is less. Okay, after the fuel which is present in the first state is completed, is burnt, it will detach from the rocket. Okay, after the first stage is over, the mass you can see in the right side diagram, after completing the mass which is present in the first stage it will detach from the rocket. Okay, now the velocity at the ending of the first stage will become the velocity for the initial stage of the second stage. Okay, it will become the velocity for the second stage, so that after completing, same principle, after completing the fuel which is present in the second state, it will be detached from the rocket again. Okay, similar to the third stage also. If the mass of the third stage is reduced, nothing but is burnt, it will again detach from the rocket, so the rocket can attain higher velocities. Now coming to the next concept, impact parameter. Okay, what actually impact parameter states that, suppose consider an alpha particle or a proton which is present at a point here, you can see in the diagram. If it is projected towards the stationary nucleus which is located at n, due to the Coulombic force of repulsion, as nucleus is positive charge and the alpha particle or proton is positive charge, the alpha particle will not go in the undeviated path which is AC. The alpha particle will not move in the undeviated path AC. It will move in a direction AB path by making nucleus as one of its focus. Okay, when alpha particle is projected on the nucleus, it will not follow a straight line, it will move in the parabolic path by making nucleus as one of its focus. Okay, here the closest distance between nucleus and the undeviated path is given by letter P. So here P is called impact parameter. Okay, here P is called impact parameter. Now we can state the definition of impact parameter like this. The impact parameter is defined as the closest distance between the nucleus and the positively charged particle projected towards it. Okay, the impact parameter is defined as the closest distance between nucleus and the positively charged particle projected towards it. Okay, this is also called as collision parameter. Okay. Now coming to the next session or the next topic, which is about the scattering cross section. Okay, the scattering cross section means when a beam of alpha particles are projected onto a scatterer. Okay, when a beam of alpha particles are projected onto a scatterer, okay, they will be scattered direction which is having a solid angle d omega. Okay, let the intensity of the alpha particle is given by capital N. Remember, the intensity of the alpha particle is given by capital N, and let dn be the number of alpha particles scattered in this solid angle d omega. Let dn be the number of alpha particles scattered in the solid angle d omega. Okay, in this d omega angle there will be dn number of particles, dn number of alpha particles. Okay, then the scattering cross section, which is given by sigma, is defined as the ratio of number of scattering particles in the solid angle, which is d omega, per unit time to the intensity. We know that the number of scattering particles in d omega is dn and the incident intensity is capital N. Then the scattering cross section is given by dn by capital N. Okay, it is given by sigma suffix sc. Sc is nothing but scattering cross section. Okay, so by this I am going to end this session. Thank you.